Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm a PhD student in Germany, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to prevent highlight dementia, what it is, where it comes from, and the two important factors you can use to fix it and prevent it from happening. Now, what is highlight dementia, right? And it's what I call the thing where you go back to a paper or a book you've read recently or even a while back, and you even went so far and highlighted and underlined sentences you thought were important and that you wanted to use, remember in the future. Now, basically. But now you're looking at it again and you keep scratching your head because half this stuff doesn't make any sense anymore, right? You're looking at it and you're like, what was I thinking? What's going on here? And that is what I call highlight dementia, right? You just can't remember what that highlight was about. Now, some people treat highlight dementia as an indicator that something wasn't important, right? They're like, okay, if I can't remember in a week what this was about, then it must not have been important at all, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. And some people just treat it as, okay, don't care, can't remember, whatever. And the other side of that argument sometimes is, okay, I'm using it actively as a filter. And I think both of these sides are mistaken and wrong. And the reason why I think that is that when you were highlighting, you thought it was important, right? And saying, okay, it must not have been important is kind of distrusting your past self, right? And I like to think of myself as someone who most of the time makes sound decisions, and so if I highlight something, then it was important in that moment, and I think I should be able to use it in the future, right? Now, how do you prevent highlight dementia, right? How do you prevent that from happening? And answering that question depends on understanding why that happens, right? Why do you not remember why a given highlight was important when you did the highlighting? And for me, the biggest reason that I've come up with and that kind of made sense to me here is that when I highlighted a sentence that I now don't remember why it was important to me, I did the first step, right? I did the highlighting, I was actively reading, but I didn't go far enough, right? I missed a step, and that step is creating enough context around that highlight, right? Because when you're reading something in a particular context, right? You're thinking about certain things as you're reading, you're connecting in your mind what you read to other things you've already read, and unless you write that down, that context is missing weeks later, right? You won't remember. And that is kind of the context that you have to also transport into the future for your highlights to make sense. So the strategy here kind of centers around two things. The first one I already mentioned, right? Transporting the context from the past into the future alongside the highlight, right? And the other thing is having a strategy in place for how you're going to do this, right? And I like to think of this in two ways. The first way is doing synchronous reading, right? Synchronous active reading, where I have the book open on one side and my notepad or Roam Research or whatever you use to take notes on the other side, and then kind of read, highlight, write down the highlight and the context, and that's that, right? But sometimes that doesn't work, right? Sometimes you don't have the notepad where you take your notes. Sometimes you're on the train and Rome doesn't connect, or Evernote does whatever it does, and things just don't work. And so in that case, what you want to do is asynchronous active reading, right? And that means, okay, I'm going to highlight things now, and I'm going to make very small notes in the margins maybe, and only later transfer it out of the material itself, right? And connect it to all my other notes, make links, and kind of build it into the extended universe of things that I'm thinking about where I'm reading this article or paper for, right? And when you do that, right, when you know, okay, I'm going to do synchronous reading right now, I have the book open, I have my notepad open, and I'm writing down the highlight as well as what I'm thinking about it and linking it to other stuff. That's half the battle. Or knowing, okay, I can't do all of that writing down and connecting right now, but at least I can write down small tidbits of context for why I think a highlight is important. In the Kindle app, that works. You can use different tools here, but do at least take small steps, and that will help you transport the context of what you're reading with the highlight into the future, and that's going to make it much easier to remember and prevent highlight dementia, so you don't scratch your head when you go back to your notes, and you can use them going forward and make the most out of your reading time and the notes you're taking. Hope that was helpful. That's been a thing that's been useful for me in thinking about in my reading in my PhD, and do leave me a comment down below if you liked it. Hit like, subscribe, whatever, if that makes sense to you, and see you in the next video. Have a good one.